I'm Stephanie Daskin. I'm the first negative speaker. So the affirmative speaker states that felons are denied their rights as people by not allowing them to vote, but we don't allow children under 18, non-citizens in the United States, and the mentally unstable to not vote. And the case being is that voting is not a right, it's a privilege. Rob McKenna, an attorney general from Washington, stated, "We have certain minimum objective standards of responsibility, trustworthiness, and commitment to our laws that we require of people before they are entrusted with the role and solemn enterprise of self-government. And so we do not allow everyone to vote, not children, not citizens, not the mentally incompetent, and not people who have been convicted of committing serious crimes against their fellow citizens. In the United States, the policy and regulations on disenfranchisement is a state prerogative, not a federal one. A felony is regarded as more serious than a misdemeanor and usually punishable by imprisonment for more than 1 year. Felons have committed serious crimes disregarding the law, meaning that they should go through requirements in order to regain the privilege back, or depending on the severity of the crime, not have the privilege at all. Just because felons have served their time does not mean that they automatically gain their rights back. The National Conference of State Legislatures states that convicted felons are not allowed to apply for federal, state grants, live in public housing, or receive federal cash such as supplemental security income or food stamps. So after felons are released, they're not allowed to own guns or are allowed to possess any firearm or ammunition. And they're also, when they register as felons in some countries, when they see that, they're not allowed to visit the country. They're not allowed a visa. They also can't enlist in the armed forces, and they can't hold a public job, for example, an educator. So that just means that just because they serve their time, that doesn't mean that they automatically get to do everything that they want. Again, it's not allowed. So after their release, murderers, thieves, assaulters, and rapists, keeping felons from voting instantly after their release prevents murderers, thieves, assaulters, and rapists from voting for our politicians and propositions while they are still a threat to society. Disenfranchisement does not keep felons from being functional members of society. It helps them work to regain the privilege and gain the trust of society back. Rob McKenna also stated, "The restoration of civil rights can be a significant part of the rehabilitation of criminal offenders and can assist them in re-entry into society. It is important that this form of clemency be granted in a deliberate, thoughtful manner that prioritizes public safety and creates incentives to avoid criminal activity." And felons not being counted in elections is a great exaggeration. Elections do not account for the whole of the country because of low voter turnout, not due to felon disenfranchisement. In the United States, 60% of the voting age population will not vote due to misinformation and lack of interest in voting. The felon voting population is 2.5% of the whole country, so like the affirmative stated, that it makes a big difference. It actually doesn't. Even if felon disenfranchisement did not exist, the likelihood of 5.85 million felons voting is low due to lack of political knowledge and education. So if they could vote, they wouldn't have the incentive or the knowledge to do it. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 20% of felons are illiterate and 35% are functionally illiterate, meaning that if they had the opportunity to write a letter, they wouldn't. And in New York, felons under 21 who did not possess a GED was 54%. So this leads me to the inherency issue. The current policy in the U.S. gives the right to each state to decide disenfranchisement and the type of requirements for a felon to vote. In the U.S., most attacks on felon disenfranchisement through constitutional litigations have failed. So there have been cases where felons have gone to the Supreme Court and have wanted a hearing, but the Supreme Court just ignores them because it's not illegal, and the whole process would just take too much. And a universal policy goes against the 14th Amendment, stating that felon voting is a state prerogative, not a federal one. Roger Clegg, a member of the Justice Department, has stated, "The United States created a federal government of enumerated powers. No power exists for Congress to pass a law banning federal felon disenfranchisement by the states. The whole point of states having the power to disenfranchise and make their own regulations is due to the severity of the crimes committed in these states. So, for example, Florida is one of the states that disenfranchises permanently. It's also one of the states in the country with the highest crime rates. The murder rate is 13.9, rape rate is 37.3, and aggravated assault is 55.4. The governor of Florida, Rick Scott, has said, in Florida, if not disenfranchised permanently in order for felons to vote, it may require a 5 to 7 year time period. Public safety and incentives for ex-felons need to be considered when restoring these rights. Creating a universal policy would be useless to many states. According to the U.S. Bureau of Justice, 2/3 of released felons are rearrested within 3 years alone. So if they had the right to vote, it would be, if they had like the privilege to vote, if they were not disenfranchised, it would be pointless because 2/3 of them just go back to jail within 3 years of their release. The current policy fits our country well. Leaving felon disenfranchisement to the state ensures that each state's safety and proper being. The affirmative stating that the lack of felon voting due to policy confusion is unjust. If a felon really wants to vote, they will learn their state's requirements and work to regain this privilege back. The governor of Florida has also stated, the nexus between criminal disenfranchisement and the preservation and the promotion of liberal democratic virtues is thus found in the exclusion from political participation of individuals who have manifestly demonstrated that their character is predominantly self-regarding, present-oriented, and impulsive. In short, disenfranchisement is reasonable because criminal offenders are in general not fitted to represent the country.